I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the playoff basketball podcast. I'm Ben Dietrich. With me, as usual,
Yes.
is Jordan Redelli.
The daily.
Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Is anyone else here?
There was somebody here. Oh, there he is.
It's the ghost of me.
Yes.
The sin bin has been open.
I haven't talked football at all yet.
Tried to get into hockey last week, and that was just disgraceful. But you're out of the sin bin and you're back.
Yeah, it's true. I don't recommend the sin bin for anybody. I don't wish the sin bin upon anybody.
It's a grim place.
Yeah.
We're all kind of in the sin bin tonight, though. Today, what day is it?
We were celebrating the Sixers' victory last night with a few adult beverages.
Yes, some adult beverages.
I think most of us would say that they felt the after effects of said beverages this morning. But Jordan has made a remarkable claim. He says he doesn't get hungover.
Never. 4 times in your life you've been hungover.
Yeah, I would say 4 times in my life.
Someone who's had drinks more than 4 times in your life.
Yeah, I've had
4 times in a week.
Yeah, easily.
So why is that? Is it your Australian genes?
I have no real
the Aussie
idea.
gene.
One of the times I got hungover was when these 2 sisters stayed at my house, and they were both so. It was New Year's Day. They stayed
Women
over.
of the cloth.
What? Yes. And they were both so hungover and so sick, and they were taking turns like throwing up in my bathroom and then coming back that I got like contact throughout the day as they were like
Were they packing boxes with that tape?
packing boxes with that tape.
You hate the sound of tape.
Oh yeah. No, just being around these 2 horrendously hungover people made me feel hungover. That was one hangover. If I take drugs, I will get hungover.
Contact hungover?
I got contact hungover.
So I asked you the question when you walked in. Are you always hungover? Therefore, you're never hungover?
I don't think so. I think it's just I have this weird constitution. I get drunk as fuck, as you know, but I don't really get hungover. And it might be the same reason that I don't get jet lag or food poisoning. I might have
That none of those exist?
it might be, maybe they just don't exist in my reality.
What if hangovers aren't physical? They're just guilt. They're just remorse for having too many drinks. Partying and celebrating too hard.
So Jordan, are you claiming hangovers don't exist, sort of like jet lag?
No, I that's what I'm saying. I don't know if maybe they don't exist because I've never really had them, nor do I get them. I haven't thrown up from alcohol in like 20 years.
I'm not talking about throwing up.
know.
So in my later years, I used to be cool with hangovers. Go out running, like it was all good. Eat a slice of pizza, you're fine. In my later years, I get like this existential like wave of just like shittiness where I just like everything sucks and nothing's worth it. I don't even want to watch TV.
Oh, is that what a hangover is? Then yes, I'm hungover pretty much every second of my fucking miserable life.
Like I'm not puking. I'm just like I look at you guys. I'm like,
Cool.
look at these. All this height is wasted on these 2 louts.
I feel like we use our height adequately. What would you be doing with our height?
You were slapping glass at the YMCA today.
I did. I slapped some glass, and I missed the layup, and I cut my wrist.
Oh,
So it was a huge L that I took. And I did it.
he just caught that on the letterbox coming up the stairs. He didn't even go to the gym.
The
today.
letterbox. I like that.
Oh, the mailbox, sorry. Yeah, but like the hangovers, so if I've never had one, how would I recognize it? It's like,
Sure.
I'm pretty sure I have perfect vision, but I've never had my eyes checked. So maybe I'm not. Like,
Have you ever met an Aussie with glasses?
not under the age of 50.
Why is that?
I don't know. Again, lack of hangovers, great eyesight. It might just be breeding. The eyesight thing, I wonder if it's because it's that southern hemisphere light.
What? I don't know what that means.
Neither do I.
Is it like the toilet's going in reverse?
No, it's just the light down there is very different.
Wait, so correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I'm wrong here.
Cool.
So Australia was colonized by English people who maybe were imprisoned. Like, was it actually like that's
They
true,
were
right?
convicts. It was a giant prison farm.
Okay, so that's true. And it's safe to say, socioeconomically, they probably come from like one demographic: people who committed crimes in that era, right? In England.
1788, yes.
Yes. You could probably isolate like a gene pool that way. People like who were compelled to commit crimes, right?
Sure. Is this the whole like all Australians are criminals thing? Because pretty true.
No, I'm just saying.
Are you saying that like their eyesight has been attuned by, say, looking out for cops? Like a whole generation of Australians like squinting and looking out for police.
Pickpockets and bread thieves that were
Sharp-eyed.
scouting.
Right.
So, you know what's really funny? It's funny you bring up this Australian
Getaway
convict thing.
drivers, a lot of them. Mostly.
My
sorry.
tea's going down the wrong way.
Did he just try to steal something? Is this a distraction?
A misdirection.
So, I popped into this mom and pop grocery store called Whole Foods right before I came here. And as I was going up to the counter,
That Bezos family.
yes, right as I get to the counter, the kid behind the counter, I haven't said anything, goes, "You speak of the Deutsch?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You speak of the Deutsch?" I'm like, "No, I don't." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just looked like you did." I was like, "What the fuck are you on?" I didn't actually say that. And he's like, "So where are you from?" I was like, "Australia." He's like, "Oh, so you're a convict?" I was like, I guess. And he's like, "So what do the rich people in Australia call the people who were bred from convicts?" I was like, "I don't know." And then he said, "So are you one of those convicts?" And I was like,
A lot.
and at this point I said, "Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about." And then that kind of just ended the conversation. But isn't that strange? He was like antagonizing me, accusing me of being German. Oh, maybe he thought I was you.
Why would you think?
Because
it
you're
was
the
me?
prince of
Because I was wearing
Williamsburg.
because I was like aged out wearing camo and a hat with grey hair.
But why would they think I was German?
Because he looks at your card every time you go there and it says Dietrich on it.
Oh,
But did you give him a card?
No. I did eventually, but maybe he saw me and was like, "That's that fucking guy who comes in here all the time buying
know.
the lattes."
there was a time in my life when
Very suspect.
every time I would get like made fun of by a racist, I would pretend not to be able to speak English. So I would just like look at them quizzically. It was usually a guy. So they would say something, and I'd just be like, I don't understand what you're saying to me. But like just with like a look, and it was funny for a second, but I lost interest in that.
You know who does that? Moses, our friend. But he does it when people ask him for directions. He pretends he can't speak English.
Oh, they just need help.
Yeah. Not a very helpful guy.
But this glasses thing, though,
Okay, sorry.
just to bring it back to that, this is a theory that I've thought about, and there is the genetic argument that Quo is making, that sharp-eyed people went there and remained sharp-eyed generations later. Totally possible. Or is it that Australians are into sports and they're vain and they were wearing contact lenses?
That's true too.
That's my
we'll never
theory, is
know.
that Australians actually, perhaps, wear glasses just like everyone else, but are concealing it.
Are contacts a form
as
of
a criminal
vanity?
would do. They're sleight of handing their eye problems away.
They committed the crime of vanity.
I mean, I wonder if it comes
eighth
down to
deadly
something as
sin.
simple as universal health care has kept previous generations healthier and therefore less likely to have inferior blemishes on their genetics, like you two four-eyed fox.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
speak English.
yes.
I don't understand. No comprende.
How do you
Can you
say, how do you
that
say
in,
I don't speak
give me that in the Deutsch.
How you say don't understand? No comprende.
Give me it in the Deutsch. All the nines.
9 comprehension. I just went into fucking, what was it, Steve Carell, like,
Oh yeah.
every German man says everything angrily.
I just think you're very vain, like your countrymen.
Who are the best four-eyed basketball players?
James Worthy, Horace Grant, and some wear contacts.
But that's kind of what I'm getting at. Australians are athletic. They are on water a lot. Water doesn't work well with glasses. They swim, they
But
surf.
they work worse with contacts, right? They just fly off your face.
I don't know. I've never had my eyes checked before.
Wait, do you know that you don't have perfect vision, or do you think the world is just blurry?
No, I know my shit's fucking legit. Like, I can read from great distances, see in the dark. I mean, my shit is outrageously good.
Test them.
What does that
Ben-
say? What
Ben-
does that say? I'm
Ben's holding
showing
up a
Star anise.
It's true. It
good.
says star
Here,
anise.
it does say that. Here,
Star anise?
can you take that a little further away, Quo?
All right.
Okay, what does the third line say on this magazine I'm holding up?
Chicken tacos.
No, best grilled onions. You were totally blind.
Oh,
dude.
he can't see shit.
Third line.
He can't see anything.
The third line?
Jordan is blind.
He's blind as a bat. You need to get
you
some
want-
He
glasses.
says it says chicken. It's best grilled onions, man.
Yeah, but
Classic.
that was the line above that.
All right, try it again. Last test for Jordan.
All right,
okay.
this is thrilling for all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see anything?
Yeah.
What does it say?
But you haven't asked me, you haven't pointed at anything.
He's shaking the
He can't
magazine.
see. This guy can't see
He's
shit.
blind as a bat,
He's
man.
super blind. I'm sorry to make fun of your eyesight. You need to get to a doctor post haste. Moving along.
Wait, we still haven't decided the best four-eyed basketball players. Who else have we got? Stoudemire, Amari, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
The Grants.
He already mentioned the Grants. Who is there any good?
Horace and Harvey?
Larry
just Horace.
Sanders.
Larry Sanders. All right, this is thrilling.
This is terrible. But the thing is,
But your eye test was really
Yeah, we got to the bottom
Yeah.
that of your current affliction.
honestly, I can't even. Does he even know who he's talking to at this point?
a couple of assholes.
Welcome to Cookies. I'm Ben Dietrich.
Look at how confused Jordan's blurry vision is right now.
He's like, wait, I thought Ben. What?
squinting through a bleary fog.
Oh God, now I wish I was hungover.
Anyhow,
All right, boss, what do you got for us then?
let's talk about the media.
Us
That's
being a
one
part
of one of your most subtle segues.
You remember we had like a guest on the pod that was like, I hate the media, and I'm like, you're on a podcast. He's like, different, and he also owns a magazine. Anyway,
I don't remember who that was.
I don't either.
it doesn't matter.
Anyway, media. Sports media, tough week for the print side of it. Sports Illustrated was purchased by a massive conglomerate that seems to be mostly interested in sort of the brand of using the name to generate revenue, and less excited about being a notable media outlet, whether they are or aren't or not at this
So will
point.
the magazine.
Still, as far as I know, it's still going to exist.
So I'm going to be fine for materials when I go to the airport.
Right.
Is that the only place they sell Sports Illustrated at this point? The airport?
I can think of one newsstand in Manhattan, downtown, on Delancey. That's
Yeah.
it.
Can you get them in a dentist's office at this point? I don't think I've even
Yeah,
seen them.
subscription only.
Yeah, my doctor has New Yorkers, and that's it.
Ooh,
Highfalutin.
well. And then
It's a little hard to maintain a magazine monthly when the sports news cycle is just so fast.
Yeah, I mean, phones. Can they be profitable on your phone, though?
well, also to Jordan's point, ESPN magazine, which had, I guess at this point they've been around for quite some time, but
So long.
they seemed like a newer entry into that sports print landscape when they arrived. But now they're also, I believe, folding the writers into the online content.
yeah.
Maybe they're going to still do the body issue, I think, or something. There's a few print
Standalones. Yeah.
print elements left, but all in all, two of the major sports-only publications seem to be sort of on their last legs this last week.
I had a long history with ESPN, the magazine. When I got out of school, they hired me a lot to make drawings and art direct packages for them. Super fun, awesome, talented people. Huge format, which was fun as a picture maker because there was a lot of real estate and they prioritized design. So shout out to them. They've always been good.
Now, how does Slam magazine stay afloat if it's just devoted to one single sport? Is it like sneaker companies?
I think I knew the art director at Slam who was, I believe, the art director for like the whole brand. So there was like 3 or 4 magazines, and she said, I believe it was like King that kept everything in business. Like one of the magazines paid for all the other magazines, even though Slam, like that was a cool magazine.
That would have been Harris Publications, which had XXL, Slam, King. They had
What's King about?
it was like a black men's magazine. And they also had a Latino men's magazine called Fuego, I believe, for a little while. And then they also had...
Which, if my German is correct, is fire.
They did Kicks.
And they did Antenna, which I remember writing for a few
Oh
times.
my God, yeah.
Was that about CB radio enthusiasts?
Only.
It's about insects.
The CB radios were all the rage in the 70s.
Were those the things that were made out of ham and you plugged them in?
Yeah.
Cool. I heard about
They
those.
just insisted that you keep on trucking.
Yes.
Do we care that ESPN went under the magazine?
Look, I care about the fate of the writing profession, and I'm sympathetic for guys who are on that beat, carrying out the good fight of being print editors and print writers. And yeah, I hope they find footing elsewhere. I think every time a publication fails, or if not fails, becomes more digital, it's both inevitable and it's a little sad. I like the tactile element of magazines, but at the same time, I don't purchase print publications much. So I get that I'm also part of the problem. I'm not a subscriber to those, but I do feel bad for them. But honestly, the biggest thing is that I don't know why the print media in general has not come out vociferously against Google and Facebook and like the monopoly of those companies, because they're the ones who are fucking the media over. And people don't really talk about it in the media. And, oh, it's a changing landscape. No, all the ad money is going to Google and Facebook and now Amazon. That's it. That is literally the entire publishing industry.
It's a golden age for middlemen. It's like all the middlemen make the money. And yeah, to your point, it's interesting, right? Because when I think of the internet, I kind of just think of Google.
But it's really nuts.
It's a company.
That you don't see the media across the board, whether it's conservative or liberal or agnostic in that way, or sports way, just saying over and over, we need to basically hit them with like the Baby Bell, Ma Bell, antitrust, like government intervention. It would save print journalism.
I'm not sure about that, but
Or it'd save journalism. Or even if it's shifting from print to online only, say it's only online. It's the reason these companies are failing is because literally billions and billions and billions of dollars that used to go to media companies are going to middlemen. That's fucking it.
But it's an open market, right? So they're allowed to do whatever they're allowed to do, and they make a good product. Like I think Google has defeated other search engines like Alta Vista, Yahoo, whatever. They do a good job, and maybe like I don't know if I was kind of overthinking it. Like ESPN should have created a better engine to run that magazine company. If we subscribe to your point that like these middlemen, which are probably getting in the way of profits.
But there's also...
But ESPN is itself a middleman.
No.
Not the magazine, but like news is like the middle, right? News in the way that ESPN covers it doesn't have to be content. Like it's we look at the sport, and that's why athletes like Derek Jeter created their own brand, right? Like to eliminate the middleman.
Right, there's I guess to some extent media is a middleman in as far as relaying information to the public.
The Players Tribune is meant to eliminate ESPN. If you had something to say as an athlete, you go to the Players Tribune and not ESPN.
I get that idea. Yeah, I'm just sort of stunned that there isn't more popularity among the media for the idea of antitrust legislation, because we've seen them get screwed over and over, where they'll work with Facebook and Facebook's like, cool, give us the content, and they're like, all right, and we'll get a lot of hits, right? Yeah, and it's like they lie about the hits. They take the content. All these publications, New York Times, it doesn't matter. They all got screwed by like getting in bed with Facebook versus trying to keep their content away from it.
And antitrust legislation is like very complicated, and I think a lot can be argued both ways with every case. But it's like the case with whether like the NBA adapts at a breakneck speed or the internet does. It's like these old stuffy baby boomers can't keep in. They basically took my side, which is just like, well, then why doesn't ESPN just make their own Google? You know, like, and that's how like a capitalist baby boomer would think.
I just think there should be Google 2, Google 3, Google 4.
They
In
tried.
short, more Googles.
Google 4 more Googles.
Anyway, all I'm saying is my sympathy goes out to all those sports writers. It is a relatively thankless job for not much money and not much security.
If you look on the bright side, if they lose their jobs, you might actually get a gig.
Don't see that working.
Well, talk about a thankless job. Like people were talking about Pitchfork this week because, like, I don't know how exactly it came up, but Beyonce came back into the discussion. Maybe it was because Taylor Swift ripped off her performance at the Billboard Music Awards, maybe. But people pointed out that the irrelevance of Pitchfork. One year they had Bradford Cox's solo project. The singer from Deer Hunter used to do a project called Atlas Sound. That was pretty awesome, like his bedroom cassette kind of project. A cassette tape, 4-track recording, probably laptop. I'm dating myself, but
I think it was 4-track. I think you're right on the money there,
right.
Coyle. Yeah.
It sounded nice. It was very warm. Mid-range.
Like Cody Chestnutty.
So they rated his solo album over Beyonce's 4 at the time, and people came for those receipts being like, yo, man, how could we take you seriously if you got that so wrong?
I hate when people come with the receipts.
Did they get it wrong, though? There was a debate, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is Pitchfork? What's the function of Pitchfork at the time?
You're asking me?
Yeah, like, do you think they should they aggregate or should they have an opinion?
Both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, if you aggregate and you have an opinion, then you're getting somewhere closer to the truth.
Sounds like the KBB.
That sounds like it to me as well.
So the argument, like, we get the argument, right?
Well,
Like,
I don't understand. This always happens, right? And I remember it happening like when I'd write something for The Ringer. And people are like, Bill Simmons again, his Ringer, an anti-Sixers story. And you're like, wait, what? There's an inclination, first of all, for people to assume there's like this giant brain that's controlling all these various contributors to a publication and that there's a unified stance behind it. Like, sure, maybe at Fox News there is or something, but in like it's weird. People really think like The Ringer is a pro-Boston like operation or something. It's bizarre. And in that same way, it's like, well, Pitchfork thought, no, some writer
Well,
wrote it.
also it's a writer. It's an individual writer, and they're also grading Bradford Cox and Beyonce on their own curves. Like they're being
And these
graded
are probably different writers writing two different
Totally
reviews.
against
but it goes
themselves.
through the editor. So, like, it's been kind of revealed that the editors of Pitchfork give the number review, and then the writers write whatever they
Right,
want.
right.
So they're independent of each other. But it's an interesting thing talking about like antitrust or trust, because for a while Pitchfork was a really influential website, but then they started their own festival that sold tickets that you could buy. So they would be like, this is the best album, and they're headlining our festival, tickets available tomorrow morning. So it got kind of murky, and I think like Pitchfork as a review site, good for our lives. Pitchfork as a party promoter / like festival promoter, good for our lives. Like we can make these choices, but people feel very strongly about Beyonce. Like it's almost like a religion. People do not laugh at anything Beyonce related.
I think that there's an element of, yes, you want a coherent value system that reviews don't seem completely arbitrary. Also, who fucking cares? Like, who fucking
I
cares?
know people who are making a living off those reviews. Like Pitchfork reviews can make or break an album. Like that number rating is so important. People don't even
used to
read
be.
the gut.
Like Clap Your
Well,
Hands,
yeah,
Say Yeah
but
was the
but
the
like
one, right?
reviewing music used to be important. Now it isn't
Totally.
anymore either because
And the long read in ESPN the
it's like-
magazine.
exactly it's here first. It's here and what's it called? Here today,
Gone.
gone tomorrow. I did see a really interesting Stan Van Gundy quote from last night, I believe, when he was talking about critics. And I'm sure it's not actually a Stan Van Gundy quote.
Probably Lester Bangs.
But he's like, you should really only take criticism from people who you would accept advice from. And I kind of like that.
I mean, it's
that was Gandhi who said that?
Stan Van Gundy,
Confucius?
Stan Van Gundy, yes.
Stan Van Gundy.
Son Tzu. Stan Van Gundy, meanwhile, like out of basketball, is like the most wonderful pundit. Like he's on the radio all the time. He's on TV. That dude is so lovable.
It's weird when you see these guys sort of figure out what their next chapter is, because I assume he would like to coach again because he was fired. Maybe not, but his brother obviously has had the opportunity and likes his position. But someone like Thibs is probably just like, please, can I coach again? Because I don't know what to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah,
Tried him.
I feel like Stan Van Gundy, they're like, so what's your thinking of me? He's like, keeping it real. That's all he does.
He's awesome.
That's, and he kind of lets you in on some secrets, which I like.
I mean, I think we had talked about that with Popovich. It was like he was sort of going towards the end of his coaching career, and we thought him and Duncan might sort of leave at the same time. And then his wife passed away, and like he's like, okay, I'm a basketball guy. This is what I'm gonna do. And I think he just
It's my family. Like these are the people I love to be around. They take care of me. My life has a ton of meaning.
and I think he added on 5 more years or something like that.
3, I believe.
3.
He's like Spurs are picking up my restaurant tabs for another half decade.
That wine. But like, so what is a writer at ESPN, the magazine? I mean, they were all absorbed by ESPN proper. Fun fact, one of the writers, the head writers at ESPN, the magazine, was one of the people who started fantasy sports, fantasy baseball.
One of my editors at The Ringer is Donnie Kwok, who was an editor for a long time over at ESPN Magazine. So people do keep circling around.
Yeah, but like, what do you do? What if you're not the best writer, but you're a writer? Like, I don't know. Like, shout out to Yang Gang, but like, what do like 60-year-old people do who were in a profession? Like the good writers will always get a job. The good pundits will always have things to do. But what if like you're in the middle or you're at the end of it?
It is 100% a perilous job for people who are not that good.
It's super stressful, and my heart goes out to them because like you're a writer and you sit around and you write words and people pay you to do that, and then you're the first one to go, like the first guy off the bench. Every time there's a draft, I can imagine like the the Brunsons of the world just being like, I'm out of a job because like 25 kids are going to enter this league, and I'm out of a seat.
Just get a gig being a carpet cleaner and write sci-fi novels.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. Just huff those cleaning products, lay back, and let your imagination run wild into space.
The Firefest guy's writing a memoir, handwriting a memoir in jail, and it went viral
Wait,
today.
handwriting? Like scribbling it on the walls? Like scratching it into
All
the
over it.
paint of his cell with his own shit?
Hand tattooing it onto his torso.
He's scribing it in feces on
Stick and poke.
on the bottom of his mattress so no one can plagiarize.
Tattooing his enemies in jail.
It's
With his
incredible
memoir.
that he's just going to keep rolling with this. Like, I'm the Firefest guy. Like, okay, cool. This is me. I like documentaries, a book. Like, man, you had a shitty festival. Like, I don't mean that, like, you can only write about a good festival. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was like a shitty scammer festival. How is this like a 4-year story?
Well, it might be interesting just because he's such a pathological liar. It could be hilarious just to read the untruths.
Well, he famously titled it with the word Prometheus, and he spelled Prometheus wrong. And the headline for the viral Twitter moment was just like an editor's worst nightmare. I'm like, no, every editor wants this book. We're all going to be talking about this book. We're going to be dissecting it and like talking about all the details about it because we love scammers. Question.
JT Leroy.
Oh yeah, that movie's coming out.
Also, if
Wait.
Google and Facebook hadn't vampire squid siphoned all the money out, he could have afforded an editor.
Okay. What's this question that you've been threatening for the last 12 seconds?
The best thing in the world is pizza insurance that Domino's supplies, right? So if you drop your pizza, they'll give you another one. It's on TV.
How many?
is-
Does it have to be a full pizza?
Well, this is my question.
Okay.
And my point. Isn't a pizza scammer better than pizza insurance? Like, there has to be a scammer out there being like, this pizza fell down. And they're like, sir, we did not make this pizza. And they're like, no, I just bought it.
How does this insurance system work?
I believe you buy it, and if something happens on the way home, you can bring it back with your literal receipt, and they'll give you a new one. It's all over TV. What, you don't watch basketball?
I don't use audio when I watch basketball.
You sit in silence quite a bit in your house,
Yeah.
which weirds me out. Like, we'll just be hanging, and there's no music, no TV.
I mean, yeah, I would definitely scam that pizza.
How would you do it?
Free protection for your most delicious asset. Pizza accidents happen. That's why we're introducing free carry-out insurance
Yeah,
on all
everyone's
carry-out
seen the
orders.
ad except for you, Ben. We don't need a recap.
There's probably some people out there who don't know what pizza insurance is.
Yes, people from other countries. That
So you
would
got to
be-
bring your entire order back to the store.
Like
So
Deutschland?
Yeah, like Deutschland.
make sure none of it is missing. I mean,
You gotta make sure.
Okay, so would you eat all the pepperoni off of it, being like, I need a new pizza?
or
with
what if you
pepperoni?
eat a slice and then it falls and like, sorry man, you didn't bring back
You just like
se-
reconfigure it.
7/8 of a pizza, kind of like mushed together.
Eat half the toppings off of it and spread the other half around, being like, "Oh, I dropped it. Can I get a new
Or,
one?"
I mean, this is so fucking stupid because
Thank you.
I don't even want to like pizza and pizza delivery dudes is for the last 50 years being the target of teenagers everywhere. Imagine how much fun you could have with pizza insurance. You like order like 6 of them and be like, "Oh, Derek,
It's only carry-out though.
it's only carry out." Oh, well, what the fuck is the point?
That's what I'm saying.
That's so stupid. I'm just like, nah. You know what I mean?
I agree though. As a teen targeting pizza guys, we had a good little one when my freshman year of college, where you'd call the pizza guy and you'd make a big order and you'd call it to whoever's room and they'd pull up. They always left the car outside with the other stuff in it.
Yeah.
So they'd go in to use the phone to call up, and then you'd run and get the stuff out of the car.
Yeah.
That's
We fed the crew. A few
I would
times
always
with that little
order
truck.
pizza cop logging in. That's theft. You're not just like egging the pizza guy. You're stealing his livelihood.
yeah.
Well, it wasn't his stuff.
You're like the guy who cancels ESPN the magazine, just taking people's lives away from
Look,
them.
we got a couple meatball heroes out of it.
I used to, as a kid,
Hero
I used to
ball, as they
order. I used to order delivery, alcohol delivery from a phone booth to the house next to the phone booth, and then the dude
Never
would-
been hungover.
This is what.
since the old alcohol delivery days.
Yeah.
Never felt hungover again.
Yeah, but I think I'd just wait out the front of this house, like near the front door, like I lived there, and they'd come up, but then I think the house people got wise to my tricks because I put in one of those sensors, which would illuminate me instead of me being like darkened by the shadows of my 15-year-old
Kind of like
self.
that Colin Farrell movie, Phone Booth.
Oh, that happens in a phone
One of
booth?
the most underrated movies ever. And
It
I
was
sw-
all right.
It's fucking sick. And the only reason that movie didn't do well is because he had that stupid chin beard. If he didn't have that just like System of a Down chin beard bullshit,
It was a
that
terrible, terrible goatee.
terrible, and a satin purple shirt. Like I've seen this movie many times.
He looked like a failed magician.
Fucking tastic.
Like
Radha
Ni-
Mitchell, shout out, Australian actress. Get it, girl.
He looked like
Pitch
he would
Black.
hang out with like Nur Khan or something.
He also looked like
Shout
that
out to
in...
Paradise, the new Khan joint that no one's gonna go to.
Didn't Colin Farrell also look like a magician in Daredevil?
Well, he kind of was a magician in Daredevil, right?
I don't forget. He was Bullseye, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about kid stories now, Ben.
The monster Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ran fast or something.
Half of him died.
Anyway, I was throwing a lob to Jordan because I know he loves phone booth. That's the kind of friend I am. I was like, Jordan, he needs a little burst of phone booth energy right now.
My friend went to the Korean spas the other day, and Colin Farrell was there. Man, I was so jealous.
You,
I was like,
if you were there, you would have been like, I loved you in phone booth.
I know. I'd be like, I need some extra towels. Anyway, speaking
all right.
speaking of hoaxes,
Speaking of hoaxes, I got yelled at yesterday at the bar because someone was really mad at Nate Silver in 538 because he thought he was a hoax.
oh,
He was just like,
not what I was going for, but let's
Let's unpack.
speaking of scammers, we were talking about, I think, the playoffs, and he was talking about probability, and oh, you know what? We were talking about Jeopardy and the guy who won $1 zillion. And it comes out that he is a baseball guy, and his dream job is to run a baseball team. Hire that guy. Anyone should just hire him. He's a game theory dude. He's a gambler. He's smart. Whatever. And then I brought up Nate Silver because he guessed all those electoral races correctly, and it turns out he unveiled his identity online, and he was also a baseball guy, like sabermetrics, like
It's baseball prospectus, right?
Yes. And then this our fellow friend at the bar was like, he's a scam artist. He gets everything wrong. People give these nerds too much credit. Like, all he does is throw spaghetti against a wall and see what sticks. And he sucks. To which I reply, duh. That was really pretentious for me to say. To which I said,
What did you say?
he's not about getting things right. He's about showing you probability. So when he says a 30% chance that a presidential candidate is going to win, that's a really
He's
big.
a weatherman.
Yes, and weathermen always hedge, right? And he's an artist at hedging.
When I was shooting around today, there was a
Sound like
guy
the hedgehog.
who said every shot's 50-50, and I loved it.
And Ben's like, I disagree. I just
No.
shot 90% from three
No,
today
Slapping glass,
on this
baby.
5'5" 16-year-old.
No, I loved it. I was actually like, you're absolutely right. It goes in or it misses. 50-50. Half quarter, 50-50. I was like, you know what? That's so much more enjoyable to just say than to be like, well, sir, I'll have you know that when I'm on the left side, statistically, that's a 42% shot. Nah, dude. Flip a coin. Goes in or misses.
Which is why my theory that like basketball has really excelled when like all these other sports maybe have had trouble. It's because it's like a slot machine. Every time a shot goes up, you're watching like a mini slot machine.
I also, though, think you have to want to see that stuff. When the league tried to unveil this sort of, I think it was through the Clippers, but they did this kind of almost like a virtual, it's not virtual reality, it's like whatever the exact phraseology is for it. But it would show the graphics as a guy was dribbling to what his percentage was from that point, and as it went up, it would sort of crescendo at his release point and be like, he makes 32% from there. And it sucked.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, it's cool to have that knowledge if you want it, but watching a game and being like, "Ooh, nice, a 27% make," like, I don't need that on the screen.
Remember when the New York Times had the infamous needle during election night, and people were just watching the probability needle?
Infuriating.
It was very infuriating, but really amazing, right? People were like, I can't stop watching this damn thing. It doesn't mean anything.
What I enjoy about it is, you see someone like, I don't know, Dame Lillard, 37 feet away, do a step back, and you see that just go up to like 100% great shot.
It was such a great shot. He's been taking them ever since. Oh, he hasn't shot one since? Weird.
It's weird. Some of these teams with struggling offenses should look for some 37-foot step back jumpers to.
I mean, the only person who
juice
does
up.
it better is Curry. Oh, wait, he hasn't taken one of those. Weird.
Just really silly because they're great shots and they go in all the time.
I'm so over this discussion. So, like, every time our interns make fun of it, there's always a little talk back being like, oh, you're still hung up on this? I'm like, oh, it's funny.
Look, the interns need to find a new slant.
We need to give them some more gruel first.
Nope.
But so this Nate Silver thing was interesting to me, right? Because people look at like metrics guys and be like, well, how often are you right? And how often are you wrong? And the whole idea of math is kind of propped up on like, oh, you got that right. You're good for another day until you're wrong. And that's kind of how I see the playoffs. It's like, it's so hard to talk about the playoffs because like you kind of just like reiterate what you just saw, right? Yeah. Like,
well, how many of my theories do you think have been correct? Because I know.
Are you looking for like ballpark? Like 6.
That's no, but like
6%.
No, 6 total.
just
Okay.
give me a percentage.
Of you,
Because
you personally.
because an esteemed fan of the show on the internet claimed that I was the number one in hot takes, but I didn't know if he meant in the world or just on this show.
Oh, I think it's 50-50. Like, you're right or you're wrong. You know, it's a 50-50 league.
Yeah. Well, I'm currently wrong about my championship prediction.
Remind me what your take was.
The Kawhi would be MVP and the Raptors would win it all. And
No, it still might. See, we're doing that thing.
I love doing that thing you do.
No, totally. I mean, you still might be right though.
Do the thing. Do the thing.
Do the
the
thing
thing.
that you do.
I mean, it's so funny
I
because
did say Raptors in 7. It's got to be at least 6.
So basically, your prediction is looking strong.
Yeah.
well, today I heard some people talking about like maybe Kawhi's injury is a factor in his play, and he's not
It's
playing.
making his shots go in 75% of the time. This
I heard-
fucking injury is really affecting my shot. It's making it
They were like-
25% better than normal.
They were like, "There's no arc on his shot anymore. He can no longer pull down rebounds above the rim." And I'm like, "What are we doing? That was like one game that he lost. He's amazing."
So the Sixers series, they're now up 2-1. They dropped the first game in Toronto by 20 points. It didn't look competitive, and I think we recorded the next day. And during that, I may have gone on a rant. Could have happened.
Never.
About some of the Sixers personnel decisions, namely the fact that they don't have a playable backup center and they don't have guards, they don't have ball handlers, etc. It is also fair, though, to give a little credit where it's due.
Brett Brown.
Brett Brown has been great. But Elton Brand, let's give a little credit here. He's added...
Fuck out of
Hold
here. How
on.
can you give him credit when 3 days ago you were pulling his pants down and smacking his booty?
He's is that a good thing? That's a good thing.
You tell me, Andrew.
It's a good thing.
Hey, no shaming. No shaming, Jordan. Here's the thing.
Ben
kinda
Dietrich,
like shit.
prisoner of the moment.
No, what I
Go
was
on.
what I was going to say was,
He's also a prisoner of his own mind.
yeah, true. What you were saying before about Nate Silver applies that when you have this small sample set and like only a finite outcome, all of a sudden you're like, well, Mike Scott hit a big shot against Brooklyn, therefore he's a good acquisition. And you can say, in game 2, with the Sixers desperately needed to win, you had James Ennis score 12 points in the first half. You're like, well, good pickup by Elton. So that's kind of what I'm saying is
And
like
James Naismith Butler had a pretty good game as well.
Dr. James Naismith Butler.
Yes.
Right,
Officially.
and Tobias Harris has played well, but Butler's been fantastic. But the smaller role characters here are kind of interesting because they hadn't done much, but because they have James Ennis in particular, he might have won them game 2. And James Ennis winning you game 2 just makes him a good acquisition based on him kind of getting hot for like 6 minutes.
Which is like JJ Redick's entire Sixers run. It's like, is he gonna get hot? Is he gonna hit some shots? Which swings the entire game. But like, it's frustrating, right? Because
I mean, I'm not frustrated. I'm just going to say, hey, Elton, you added a couple guys who were not as heralded as the stars you were looking to acquire. They were role players, and they hit some big shots. So we have to say, hey, man, that worked out.
it happened on his watch. Boban's playing less minutes. Brett Brown put Embiid on Siakam, which seems to have worked. But like, I mean, I'm wrong a lot. But, you know, we said like,
That's one thing you're right about.
the Sixers are a good enough team to beat the Raptors. And that's like, and they're currently beating them, which doesn't mean that much, right?
Well, let me get very basketball radio-y here. You said before the series started, you believed the Sixers could beat them. I was skeptical because of some of those voids on the roster and the fact that the Raptors have been playing really well. What has happened in this series that validates your hot take that you are potentially going to get right?
I think it was a simple switch on Siakam. I don't think Toronto has the depth that we thought they did.
I agree.
The bench is as thin as the Sixers bench.
Fucking sus.
Yeah.
It is not a good bench. And without OG and losing Miles,
What an amazing name.
that's great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I said
so
Miles is amazing.
Think of how good OG is gonna be when he's like a veteran. But, you lose C.J. Miles, you lose Lynn goes down to injury. As you said, you're now doing what the Sixers are doing, bringing in a spare part like Jody Meeks and being like, dude, can you not be terrible for a second?
And as soon as you shorten up that bench, the Sixers starters on a whole are better than the rotation players on the Raptors. And even though the Raptors possess the best player in the series, the Sixers are just stacked. That's a starting lineup. That's scary.
What I've noticed that's really interesting is the Kawhi issue, where he's been so good. And it's what you were saying. It's like people are complaining that he's not performing adequately or up to his usual standards. Like, that dude shoots 46% on mid-range jumpers. He's making 70%. He's not missing at all. And if I'm a Raptors fan, it's a little concerning because their assists are way down. They've gotten a worse result in every single game. And you're like, now our offense is Kawhi not getting to the line, not taking threes, taking a bunch of mid-range jumpers that he's been hitting at like an incredible rate above what he normally does. That's a little grim.
That's the problem. Like, he's not shooting threes and he's not looking for contact. So he's not even getting and ones on those things because no one's getting near him because he's got that sweet fadeaway.
And Lowry's being bad is a big deal. I think.
Yeah, but it's a big deal. But when hasn't it been a big deal in the playoffs for Lowry?
I mean, he threw that wagon at Simmons yesterday. And Simmons
was
gave him
a
a little
big wagon.
little elbow music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really? Is that little elbow music?
Oh, it's elbow music, a little elbow grease.
Would you say that Simmons rocked that caboose?
Yeah, he gave that, jarred the wagon.
With a thick wagon.
Gave that steak a thumping?
But to the quote point, if the Raptors win the next game, it's 2-2, and they're going back to Toronto with home court advantage reclaimed. But thus far, Brett Brown, like, kind of
Good adjustment.
outsmarting Nick Nurse. Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's made adjustments and Nurse hasn't. And it'll be interesting to see if the Raptors can get back to having Lowry creating for other people or Marc Gasol creating for other people, because they're kind of judoing Kawhi's effectiveness. That Ben Simmons is on him, everyone else is staying home. Simmons isn't letting him get threes off, isn't letting him get to the basket, and he's jab stepping, and knocking down 15-footers. No one's passing.
So his defense is a problem. His defensive play this series is going to swing it.
The Raptors don't have a solution for that. They can try to pick and get someone else on him, but Simmons can guard Kawhi, and not many other guys in the league can.
Yeah. And he's just that little bit too big for Kawhi. Like, you know what I mean? He's obviously a very good defender, but it's the size and the wingspan that's got him bothered, which is why he can't get past him. And he, like you said, I believe you said this after a few glasses of wine, but that was that's
Only the
sort of
finest
when you're
ones.
at your best. Is that they're kind of crappy shots. They're low percentage, except that they're all going in.
Yeah, I'm like, this
And
is
they're-
junk. He's putting up trash. And I
Long
guess,
It's like
range twos.
falling out of court, like corner of the backboard rainbows.
like,
is-
props
take
to him
that
for
any
making
day.
it, but Kawhi has a little bit of that, like, Kobe element to his shot selection, and we think of him as a heady player because he's so great on defense, and
And he's quiet. We
He's
just
quiet.
think he's smart because
also
he's
comes
quiet.
from out of
He is
the
smart, but-
Spurs organization, Toronto, and by no means is this saying anything about his like smarts. I just mean he can be baited into taking shots that are not great, and he's not someone who creates a ton for his teammates. He's not a bad passer, but he's foremost a guy who goes and gets buckets himself. And we don't really think of him as a Kobe type guy because he's not that personality type as far as we know.
And that's such like a vibey thing to think that I catch myself thinking all the time. It's like Kawhi Leonard, when right, which he is right, is like a top 7, 8 all NBA player. But can he be the alpha on a winning team?
I mean, I think he
Yes, right?
can be, he's
If they win,
Yeah, exactly, right?
they win.
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Because if they win, because he shoots 70% on bad shots, it's like, hats off, Kawhi. Like, that's incredible. You just did some shit that doesn't work, and you managed to do it to beat a good team.
Yeah.
But
And that's the thing. Like, Simmons isn't contributing that much on the offensive end because you have Butler and now Embiid doing his damn thing. But I think and because Kawhi is putting up numbers and making these sort of very difficult shots, I think a lot of people are overlooking Simmons in this series, and it might take him to have a breakout game with more flashy numbers to get the recognition, which is a little sad. But I also have a lot of respect for Simmons that he's not really in those conversations. He's not like in the highlight conversations. No one's really like, oh, he put up a near triple-double or anything like that. Even Brett Brown was like, yeah, we run everything through Embiid. Like, he's our guy. He's our number one player. And you don't publicly say that unless there's an understanding from Ben Simmons that this is your team identity and that he's a willing, as a fairly arrogant seeming guy, the fact that he's a willing participant to let everything run through Embiid is pretty fucking cool. Like, I'm just cool. You guys do that. I'm going to go and make life difficult for one of the best players in the NBA.
He's playing like 44 minutes a game and guarding Kawhi Leonard the entire time.
Yeah.
And doing almost as good a job as you could assume anyone would do on someone like Kawhi, who's a ridiculously good scorer, and making bad shots at a clip that is not a suggestion that Simmons is doing anything wrong. He's just making crazy shots. But Simmons also is contributing literally by just going down and standing there and getting Kawhi out of the play. Because if I'm the Raptors, maybe I switch it up. Maybe I say, all right, Kawhi is going to go on Butler. We'll try to put someone else on Simmons. But for the time being, the fact that Kawhi is not around the perimeter, swiping at passes and getting out in transition, that he's got to go down and sit next to Simmons and box out, there's real value to that if you're the Philly.
Yeah, exactly. Just
he's got to box a big guy out. He's got to run the full length of the court.
I mean, he's a basketball genius, right? Like, we always joke about that. He's from the future, and he would just be like, I've come from 2022. We don't take bad shots, and our value on the court isn't dictated by how many
he's only from
points I
11
get."
hours in the future.
If
The future, nonetheless.
yeah.
11 hours from now, everyone's going to understand the greatness of Ben Simmons.
He's like, I have 20/20 vision, never been hungover, or always hungover.
But I mean, that's what you say to me those times when we play basketball. You're like, stop moving. You're bringing your man with you, like into my space where I'm going to take my 75% jump shot or whatever. And so you just tell me to go and stand in the corner until.
Look at Jordan Rodelli, poor spacer. I like your baby hook shot.
Oh yeah,
You expect someone of your height to throw it down with gusto, but you have that sweet baby jumper.
yeah.
He doesn't want to humiliate people with his windmills.
It's true.
I would
Not
say
today.
Not
but speaking of windmills, as a Sixers fan, that fourth quarter was probably the most fun I've had watching a game since like AI era.
who AI also seemed to have the most fun watching a Sixers game since his own
mean,
era. He
that-
was getting loose in the
He
crowd.
was lit.
Yeah.
Every photo of him was a kind of like Miller Lite, like at arm's length.
Which reminds me of the most important thing that happened this week. And what we all been waiting all season for this.
All right, can we talk about this?
I mean, it's been a long lead in for years at Cookies, but can we bust out some takes on the Big Three draft?
Whoa,
Speaking of
give us
AI.
what's the big board? How did they do? Did they draft well in the Big Three
Number
2019 draft?
Number one went to your boy Royce White, who infamously cannot fly, allegedly. So he wore a T-shirt that said "I," and there was a picture of a plane here.
He's an interesting case because very talented, and we all have to be sympathetic to his condition, but it's a condition that also makes him annoying.
Well, he is an annoying person, but his condition is real, right?
And I don't know where one ends and one doesn't. Like, he is really annoying. Just an annoying person.
I think he said, like, after he got drafted, he was like, there's only two people on Earth. I'm one of two people on Earth who can do what I can do, and one of them's in L.A., which is pretty funny. He's comparing himself to LeBron James.
That I kind of like.
He was a good player in college, man, and Daryl Morey drafted him, like, with hopes that he'd kind of be another round mound of rebound.
I mean, I'm
Thanks, Witherspoon.
I have to say, I do appreciate someone who was just drafted in the Big Three league saying that me and LeBron are the only two guys who can do this. That's
awesome.
That's chutzpah.
As they say in Deutschland.
Number one picks, me, LeBron, but you're in a elderly 3-on-3 league.
So let me get this straight. He couldn't play in the NBA because he doesn't like air travel, but then he's going to fly around the country playing in like this sort of rodeo traveling circus type
Maybe he's going to drive.
league
I think there's enough-
doesn't the Big Three feel like it should be at a massive shopping center? You know, like Westfield Shopping Mall presents washed motherfuckers from years
that's
ago.
kind of what they do, though. They travel around and they do all the games on one afternoon in one city.
That's what I mean.
And then he probably just drives to the next one.
I was so excited for the league in theory, and then when I watched it, I was like, "This is unwatchable stuff, man. It's unwatchable."
I think the only thing that's unwatchable, the main thing that's unwatchable about it is that it's half court.
That's kind of fun. Bonzi Wells is back.
You know, we've talked about the ethics of pickup ball, right? You know, with like ones, twos, and threes,
Yes, we have.
ones and twos, etc. But
Yang
in
Yang.
what's interesting is in the Olympics, they're going to have pickup ball. I believe as
What?
as 3-on-3 in the Olympics.
What?
They're giving away 3 medals for basketball, right? I think it's 1-on-1, 3-on-3, and team.
Wait, what
I
the
don't know.
fuck are you talking about? There's 3-on-3 in the Olympics?
Yeah.
But it's
No one-on-one.
different players from the NBA? Like different players from the league? Ben, stop stressing about the chair. It's fine.
No, I'm just trying to see if it's moving because it's like it's going. And I just don't know if it's picking up for our.
I'm struggling over here.
Yeah. You're picking on the most hungover cookie.
No, I'm not picking on him. I just don't know if his chair is uneven. I'm trying to help him.
I got a booster on my chair.
Yeah.
You hear that, right?
I do now.
Oh, it's the chair's not screwed in well.
Anyway, sorry about that engrossing little segue.
Speaking of boosters, $10,000 a month for
Pizza insurance.
DeAndre Ayton.
What?
Quote. Let's go
I
back
know
to.
I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere.
All right, let's
All
go.
right.
Let's
Let's explain to me. Are these specialty 3-on-3 players, or does each team from
Okay.
the Olympics
So I-
nominate 3 dudes?
So here's how it works. There is a men's 3-on-3 team, and most of the guys came from backgrounds with the Princeton offense, and it only really encourages shooters and one big because they play with ones and twos half court. So it's kind of a different game almost. So they've been doing it, I believe, in the way that Olympics have a trial sport and then it becomes real, but it's going to be an actual medaling event at some point in the near future. Maybe the next Olympics.
Where's the next one?
I forget. Japan.
It's Japan.
And there was some debate about whether NBA guys would decide to play in it because they're obviously better at basketball than these dudes. Because I ended up interviewing one of them who plays 3-on-3, and I think he might have even played at Princeton. There were guys who played D1. They were good basketball players, but they had regular jobs. He worked in like the financial district,
Yeah.
and then he would go and play 3-on-3 pickup ball. But it really is just all shooting. It's kind of a little bit of a different sport.
I'm going to say that no, NBA players, even though they would like the gold medal, the risk of getting clowned by somebody who does this shit is too great. Like, you're not going to be Seth Curry and be like, look, I can shoot better than this guy. But you're not playing, like, you haven't been doing this shit for years, and you probably have 3 months to prepare. And the risk of getting waxed and clowned by an amateur is too great and not worth it. And then also as a kind of empty gold medal because you couldn't bang with the big boys.
Right. It's like if you're not going to get the stars, are you going to get like Spencer Dinwiddie's down? Like, are you going to get some sort of guys who can't make the whatever dream team permutation and get some like Corey Joseph is in?
How did 3-on-3 basketball make it through when rollerblading didn't? That's an absolute travesty. How many basketball games do we need in these damn Olympics?
I think because the ratings were so good, a lot of people were watching basketball and not other sports. They added skateboarding too, hoping for like some extreme sports ratings. Because because I think like the popularity of the Olympics kind of died down after we got woke about like the financials and all that stuff.
But there's definitely a weird coordination, or at least a dovetailing of the big three, saying we're going to do a 3-on-3 league, with the Olympics saying we think 3-on-3 is is going to be a real sport that's popular. It's interesting because it's kind of fun, but I don't really ever feel the urge to watch 3-on-3.
I have a quick question regarding 3-on-3. White Men Can't Jump, for example. That was 2-on-2. Have you ever seen 2-on-2, or did they just make 2-on-2 tournaments a thing for that movie because it was a buddy comedy?
Always 3-on-3.
Always 3-on-3. I was like, what's this 2-on-2? It's got to be just because it was a buddy comedy, and if there was a third person, it would kind of fuck up the dynamic.
Growing up, every summer there'd be these different tournaments. They have different names, and every city in America, I would say, probably has some version of that. But they would go into your downtown, they'd put up a bunch of hoops, and then you'd sign up and you'd pay to have a team, and then you'd be in a tournament. And it was like a thing in the 90s. I don't know that it's still popular, but back then, yeah, it was like 3-on-3 tournament every single summer.
If you were playing 2-on-2, you could just game the system by having two tall guys, right? What's the most optimal 2-on-2? Two-person lineup. Two bigs, right?
I would say so.
I mean, the thing is, with
You don't need ball handling.
with 2-on-2, you
Just
actually
pass.
with 2-on-2 you want two moderately big guys who can both kind of defend the post but also stay on guards, because by far the most effective thing to do is run pick and rolls, because
Sure.
if you're good at running a pick and roll,
It's undefendable.
it's really hard to defend without a third defender coming over to like chip a big. So if you're going to play 2-on-2, you just rule pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. So if you had a shooter and a big who could roll and catch lobs,
And winners outs is always about rebounding, right? Like the rebounding in that format is just really
they
important.
typically do losers out though. Oh, I'm not sure about the Olympics. Actually, not sure.
So
But in those tournaments, they would do losers out though, because otherwise a good team would just steamroll people.
in the storied Big Three draft, your boy Greg Oden also got drafted. I believe number 7. It's nice to see him back. It's so crazy, right? Because Kevin Durant, who he's always compared to, because he went one pick before Durant to the Blazers, which was the correct pick. You do that every time. Greg Oden was an amazing player in Ohio State. It's nice to see him back, but it was kind of jarring because Durant is like coming into his own. And
He's the
having
second
a
best
moment.
player of all time.
Yes,
Well, they're both going to be playing meaningless games for this year.
right. And you hate to see it.
No, it's a tough scene, man.
Also, Larry Sanders got drafted, number 3. He wasn't there, but it was announced that he was willing to play, and he went very high.
Good for him. He went third in the draft when he could have been making $40 million on a potential championship appearing team. Although something stands in the way of that Bucks dream right now. It's the hard, scrabbled Celtics.
Well, I was going to say, like, you brought up a good point with Larry Sanders, right? Like, he turns down this money, but, like, he was in pursuit of happiness. He couldn't really handle... He wasn't having fun. And he kind of brought up the discussion, was like, what is a good life, right? Is it health? Is it mental health? Is it money? Because
Is it kick flipping out the bowl?
yeah. Is it like, because everyone wants to play basketball, everyone wants to be like a max player in the NBA, but he didn't. He turned it down because he chose happiness. And then this week, Danny Ainge, maybe the best GM ever, had a little heart attack. And he's going to make a full recovery, thankfully. And they did work on him. Doctors are cool with it.
So he's going to be fine.
The word is he's going to be fine.
Like, fine. Like, he's not going to
Well,
die. So we can make jokes.
Well,
Can we start calling him Danny Angina yet?
Angina?
Do you even know what that is?
No.
No, it's chest pain.
Oh, angina. Right.
Pretty good joke.
Yeah.
If
If
we're
he's
allowed to
okay.
make them.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Well, he had a previous
he's going
heart
to be
attack too.
fine, right?
We were clowning him before this heart attack.
How did
and
it happen? Like Kyle Lowry bent over in front of him or something?
Now, see, Is he allowed to make these jokes? Quote, is he going to be fine?
The word is he's fine. Proceed with your...
So we can say he's so stressed about Tatum turning into Martell Webster without fearing that it'll come off the wrong way. He's going to be fine.
I'm not going to participate in this just in case. Because there's a probability he won't.
So you're saying he won't be fine?
Wait, so
There's a
am I
chance.
an asshole?
How dare you, Jordan? And how dare me? I feel awful for what I said. Thanks a lot, Quo. That was a setup.
It was a setup. I'm undercover. Whoop, whoop.
Yep.
But
That's what he was like. Can't believe this cop was drinking with us at the bar last night.
it's been a long game. You
Well,
guys are... This is a citizen.
We messed up. You got to remember, you have to ask the cop, and if he's a cop, he has to tell you that he's a cop. As we all know, the undercover's creed. Are
Donovan
you a cop?
Brasco.
Are you a cop? God damn it! I know you'll kill me on the spot, but yes, he did it. He asked me.
So Danny Ainge has to retire, right? Like, if you're his family, if you're his friends, you're done. You're no longer going to put yourself in a high pressure situation. You are going to be chilling and watching games without anything at stake.
I don't know. People have heart attacks without stress a lot of the time.
But
Maybe it's just one of those things.
But either way, right? He has had a heart attack, therefore he should not even risk another one.
But what's the risk of him having a heart attack if he's not the president or director of basketball operations of Boston? If he's just at home, sitting around,
He's still going to worry.
but that's what I mean. Is it
But
that the
less
job is the job too stressful?
I think the job is too
Or
stressful.
is he eating like too much prosciutto,
I think it's a job.
not the processed meats?
The mortadella.
I mean, he's got to quit both. But
He's a ham operator. He's a ham radio operator.
he's deadly in transistor radio.
He definitely likes thick cut bacon. We've established that.
Kind of makes his heart jump.
Yeah, the rump roast.
But people were getting on Dolan this week because the board members of the Madison Square Garden are suing him because they think he's getting paid too much. And the rumors it was $27 million for 3 years he paid himself out. I'm like, that seems like he's underpaid. That's a stressful job, man. Like, all these front office jobs are fucking stressful.
I mean, that's not a stressful. It's only a stressful job if you're doing it. Like, what's his job? To chastise fans and talk shit to the media? Like, that's literally all he does.
Have you seen him at games? That dude is not relaxed. That dude is a bundle of fucking
He doesn't have to
nerves.
go.
Dude, what do you mean not relaxed? You remember fucking rails he did in the bathroom?
He's sober.
He's very
Fuck,
sober.
He is sober. Rails of coffee grinds.
I mean, he could sit in a private box. He wants to sit there courtside on the baseline, surrounded by Latrell Sprewell and other Knicks who
and all
will
those
tolerate
other,
him.
the other god botherers in his midst.
I wonder what the play is there because the board members don't want him around. They just want to get some of his money, obviously. But it's like, for years, for every iteration of the Knicks, Isaiah Thomas, Grunfeld, Donnie Walsh, Phil Jackson, Scott Layden, everyone's just like, can Dolan just leave and let the experts do it? And they're suing him to be around now.
Yeah, we've talked about Dolan a few times. I think the pendulum of wrath about Dolan has swung towards we don't really care about him at this point.
Don't care.
He doesn't seem to do anything. He dooms the franchise because he doesn't install the right people, but he's also doesn't seem to be actively screwing around with a team. He just sort of
Tour with
shows up.
his band, man. But so I guess what I'm saying is as fans who scour stats and look at all this stuff and we would have done this and Phoenix is a laughingstock, etc., whatever. These jobs are really hard. And dude just had a fucking heart attack. And I'm like, this sucks, man.
It's because he was just staring at
Mortadella?
picnic hams on his computer.
You guys have no sympathy for the heart attack.
You said he's going to be okay.
Yeah, you said he would be fine.
You said he's 100% fine.
I mean, we can make fun of him, but you can't downplay a heart attack.
Are you saying it's 50-50?
Guys, rest in peace. Rest in power, Danny.
What?
Ainge.
You just killed Ainge? Oh, you mean you killed his position?
Yes, exactly.
You mentioned the Suns. somebody just stepped into a pretty stressful job with them.
That's a good job, right?
Will Monty make it through the year without angina?
Depends on what draft pick he gets. If he gets Zion, that's a sick
Is
job.
that why he took the job? Turns down LA. Did he just go to Phoenix because he's looking at a bunch of talent and potentially he's got a 1 in 4 chance to get
Well,
it?
that's a great question.
Oh, I know.
Less than a 1 in 4 chance.
But if you, I don't know about the lottery as much, but if you're looking at those situations, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, I think Robert Sarver, I think
That's
his
his
name is.
name.
He's infamously a meddler and an awful owner. And there was an article that was written on ESPN a few months back about how difficult it is just to manage him. And they talked about the sort of confusion, bewilderment, and ineptitude within the Phoenix Suns organization, using the sort of Greek adage that a head rots from the head down. And they're like, Sarver
the
is
body,
The head rots from the head down? I should hope
the
so.
fish rots.
the body, the fish rots from
You'll
the
be
head
sleeping
down.
with the fishes in your concrete boots.
Anyway, yes, the fish rots head down. So Sarver,
Really? Is that true?
this is an old saying. Mike Dukakis or someone said it. But Sarver, the rotting head of the Phoenix fish, if we're just going to keep laboriously toiling with this,
Doesn't the
Fish.
stomach
Hey,
rot
man, you
first?
started this shit.
it's maximum pescado.
Isn't where the chocolate hostages are stored? Wouldn't that be the first to rot?
Of the fish?
Yeah. Like if you
Fish
caught
butts?
a fish, yeah, it would start rotting in the butt, right?
You gut the fish.
Oh no, okay, in front.
Well,
if
no,
you gut it,
You don't necessarily.
yeah. If you just had like a whole fish and you brought it
Oh,
up,
you gotta gut it right away.
oh yeah, then it's the head.
Yeah, you gotta gut the fish immediately. That's what you do. You take it out, you kill it, you gut it.
But what if you don't? Like I bought sardines like whole that you have to clean at home.
Do you start cleaning them at their butt? Do you wipe the sardine butt first before you wash its face?
I do.
Cool.
Well,
Stinks up the whole joint. Don't fry sardines
A
at home.
little fish bidet. little squeeze bottle of champagne up its butt.
Have you guys tried the bidets in Japan?
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Not in Japan. I've been to a Japanese place in New York that has the bidets.
They're amazing.
Sometimes I go in there, have a martini right before I need to take a shit just so I can use it.
the show just keeps getting more scatological, and I'm a little concerned.
I'm a little scatological today.
Scatological is a really gross word.
Oh, I'm the bad guy here.
Yeah.
Quote,
You're the scat
quote,
police.
you've become the crudest. Jordan still remains the lewdest.
Thank you.
I'm the cutest.
Um,
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something that rhymes.
So you would retire
shrewdest,
if you're Ainge, right?
perhaps. But we also know that's not true.
Yeah, that's definitely untrue. Quo's wincing in pain.
I just feel awful. You guys are bumming me out, man. It's too scatological. You're just all over the place today. Focus.
We're all over the place.
You've made a
I'm
mockery.
right where I want to be.
You've made an absolute travesty of this episode, Quo. You're going to have to rally
To make this a perfect
very
pod.
quickly.
Are you ready for the last topic?
yes,
Yes.
hit us with
this
the,
is your redemption moment that's going to lead us to the perfect pod.
it's the final stage. Then you can go home and sleep that shit off.
You've already said awful things about Danny Ainge. You've talked about sardine butts. Bring it home, Quo. Here it is. Let's go.
Placebos. So my
That's what you had?
my favorite podcast, other than this one, and not nearly as perfect. Hidden Brain talked about like placebo effect and people who take sugar pills, who have chronic diseases, and like the effect of like the brain on the body, whatever. Like good doctors like having an impact over doctors who are maybe too matter of fact. So the difference between like a coach like Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich. So it got me thinking in NBA terms, like is what happens. And I was thinking about being a Knicks fan and how many placebos we've been thrown in the last 20 years, which means like what actions have teams taken to like satisfy a fan base that actually have no effect. And does that fan base actually change? Like switching a coach, signing Amari Stoudemire, which has like no net effect. tanking for a draft pick that might end up being Cam Reddish. Like, these are just all placebos, right? Because as a Knicks fan, I was really excited about this season because we have a chance at Zion. Is that real? Like, what am I rooting for? Like, what is
Bring it home, Quo. Come on, bring us back.
what is like a game 2 victory when we're just like the team's up 2-0, the series is over, Golden State's going to take it home? Is that real? Is that a real feeling? Because what if Houston just wins the next 2 at home? And then it's just like, it's the series that everyone wanted. Who's going to win the next 3? Like,
Is that the placebo effect, though?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to help me with this. I mean, instead of fighting me on this, you got to help me with this.
I'm not fighting you, but now I think I'm contact hungover again.
Hey, man. When the interns were mentioning this idea to me, I was like, this will be a challenge because these guys would fight me every way on this. And it's coming true.
The idea that teams operate with public perception in mind, that sounds a bit like a placebo effect, where the idea of we're going to sign some veteran leaders. That's something you would say to a fan base, that we've got a bunch of young guys, but we're going to sign some older dudes who are going to help them learn how to play.
Isn't the lottery a placebo?
But no one does that, though, right? I just mean that one. The real effect is that you're saying it's going to teach young guys how to play, but what you're really doing is giving your coach some guys to help his team win. So it's weird. I'm trying to work with this placebo idea, but it is saying, like, you know why our young guys are going to be better? Because an old guy was around. It's like, that's not true. That's a placebo effect. When one last point, when Kat said, oh, you know, it was a big impact for me was KG being there, really, you know, taught me how to play. He wasn't any better because of KG. He didn't win more games. The Timberwolves suck, but KG in that example is a placebo effect.
Yes, I agree. And when you mentioned Amari Stoudemire, that was the first person regarding the Knicks that came to mind. Was it wasn't really what they wanted or what they needed, but they needed to satiate people and be like, here, this thing is going, like you said, like a drug. This thing is going to help you. It's going to make you better, but we know that it's going to do nothing. And in many ways, I feel like the last 5 years of Shaquille O'Neal's career was a little bit like that.
And to be
Like,
clear,
here
placebos
is-
work. Like, placebos do make people better.
Yeah. And so exactly, like they were looking to make a splash and make fans with Stoudemire, and they did. And then they added Carmelo Anthony, and they got a decade of young Knicks fans.
Is the gravity, as you would call it, that spacing provides in an offense, is that real or a placebo? Does that fall under the placebo effect?
No, I think that has real effect. I mean, I guess where I was going
But
with
that's what I mean. It has a real effect. If you're
Yeah, and
worried,
placebo
if you're
also,
worried
right.
about a guy making threes, but he's not really taking them, but he's still standing over there, is the idea of like respecting someone's jumper, like a placebo effect where you don't actually have to make them in that game. You just have to have
Sure.
proven that you can. Like, I don't know. I'm digging around looking for some placebos.
like it kind of got me to thinking about like culture, right? Like when you said like KG's effect on Cat, but Cat ended up being good. Like, how does culture matter? Are we just looking at results because like it's understood that placebos might not work, and then you just chalk it up being like, oh, you weren't taking anything, those are just sugar pills. But when it does work, we're interested. So it's almost like we have to confirm what we hope the outcome will be.
There's also a lot of survivorship bias that occurs when we're talking about the NBA, when Paul George becomes a superstar and credits the fact that he wasn't asked to do very much as a rookie. And you're like, that's just what happened with you, man. Yeah. Someone could have put you in a totally different situation and given you a ton of responsibility while you were a really young, unprepared player, and you'd be exactly as good as you are right now. And I would say 99% of the time, you probably would be the same guy. Like, Wiggins doesn't become good if he's with the Spurs. He might be better, he might take better shots, but he doesn't magically just become a good basketball player.
Well, that's always an interesting idea, right? Like I always think about MCW, promising rookie, and we assume like these young guys get better. They go through basketball puberty in their first 3 years in the NBA. He got progressively worse, sort of like Wiggins. Like there's always examples of this, and like, is youth a placebo? Like, do we use it? Do we recognize it when players do get better, or like in Jason Tatum's case, it's just like, is he just a bad player who's getting worse?
Well, my general feeling is
I think we're getting confused as to what placebos are and what is just perception.
yeah.
But they're
Bring us home,
intrinsically
Quo. Bring us home.
they're connected, right? You can't have a placebo without perception.
Sure, but sometimes it's just perception.
Yeah.
Placebo to me is intentionally influencing or tricking the outcome.
Or giving the outcome an opportunity to evolve by itself. Like, if a doctor does nothing, like time kind of fixes most things, right? So you kind of start thinking about that, like, doctor, I feel terrible. It's just like, cool, just take these pills and then in 2 weeks you'll feel better. That's just time.
I do think that you have to apply this to perhaps like the ailments that would affect a team or a player. And then maybe that's how we can hone in on this, that use it in a medical sort of standpoint, where it's like, not to get into like Markelle Fultz, and because we don't know what that situation really was, whether it's mental or his shoulder or whatever.
Family related.
Right, there's various moving parts, but maybe that's when you say like, okay, just get out there and like the old cliche, score a couple layups and then get yourself going. It's almost like get this guy some easy baskets that your point guard gives him, so
He just has to see it go in.
I mean,
I know what you're saying. Phil Jackson. He was the ultimate placebo, right?
okay, I like where you're going with this.
Any big name that's not good.
Yeah. Cool. Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson, placebo?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, placebo. He didn't have any good players. He didn't make any good moves.
Right.
Everyone was psyched, and it's like, this is trending in a positive direction, even though there was no chance it ever would.
And like, right, yeah, it's tied to the idea of hope and like being a fan and like being.
Okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. That Magic Johnson, same deal. When you're like, okay, he's a star, he's going to bring people here, and then LeBron came, and you're like, okay, Magic, he did something for the organization. It turns out that he really wasn't doing anything. He was being insulted in emails by the people making real decisions, and he was a total placebo. But we're also talking about perception again.
It's complicated. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there.
I'm glad that you did, so we don't have to talk about it again.
I think we should revisit this at length.
We forgot about
Standalone episode.
next episode, the pig brain placebo.
Oh man, I can't wait to talk about that next week.
Yo, pig brains is going to
brains.
be such a fire topic.
Pig
man.
brains, man. That's going to be crazy when we get around to that, because we had to get the placebo discussion in this week.
It had priority over pig brain, but next week,
Next
number
week.
one priority, pig's brains.
I think we should get a pig brain and put it in the middle of the table just so we can know and smell what we're talking about.
Does the pig rot from the brain?
I think it runs from the butt. That's why you gotta-
No, all right. I felt like you almost unperfected.
I love cookies.
And I had to just stop you with the pig
Why
butt
are, you,
thing.
why are you looking at me? I almost unperfected.
Quo brought us back with this incredible placebo idea that really elevated us to perfection.
And you had to ruin it with pig's butt.
How derriere.
And there it is.
The perfect
the perfect
pod.
pod. Cookies.
Cookies.